Okay. Question from the audience. Wander, do you like tea? Yes, I like tea. Sort of. I like tea with milk and sugar to the point where it's not really tea anymore. It's more of just kind of a sugar drink. Kind of shameless with that. I don't know. I really like creamy, sugary drinks, if I can get them. I didn't like tea originally, mainly because my mother would always only make green tea. Like, she barely ever drank anything other than just regular... she barely, if ever, drank anything other than just, anything other than just, like, green tea. I think we had mint for a little while, but she eventually just switched to pure loose-leaf green because... loose-leaf green tea is, like, the cheapest thing I think you could generally pick up. So it wasn't until I went to, Britain, for a very short, like, I guess, week-long, school trip. Because it's not really a study abroad if you're only there for a week. But so we went to Britain for a week, and, every morning at breakfast they had English breakfast tea, go figure. And, English breakfast tea, with cream and sugar in it, and it was delicious. And I more or less went out, picked up a bunch of, English breakfast tea, like 100, I think it was like 100 packages or something, like, in like a tin. And I brought it back with me, and drank that pretty much religiously for an entire summer. And it was really good. And now I don't drink a whole lot of, I don't drink a whole lot of, like, tea anymore just because it takes prep time. I mostly just drink water. Unfortunately, drinking tea requires me to, like, you know, go microwave, get the right balance of cream, sugar, milk and sugar, whatever. And the unfortunate reality of that is I'm glued to this computer for, what, 6-7 hours straight for a day? It gets really difficult for me to, get up and make tea, because, like, even stepping away to go to the bathroom, I lose, like, 30 viewers, and they don't come back. And so, you know, there's usually that, like, baseline of, like, not worth it. I'll just have a giant bottle of water next to me, and that'll just be it. It's rough. I get a little bit jealous of, YouTubers sometimes, because they're, you know, their schedules kind of allow them to be ridiculous. Let's see. Okay, so I guess let's start with the bibimbap. Might as well go from there. Have Shell make me some. She's not my maid. She does her own thing. I'm sure she would gladly do it, but I'm not the kind of person to be like, Shell, make me some tea.
I could make us tea, just you never asked me to. I'm the, like, tea drinker here.
Yeah. See what I have to deal with here? Okay. Let's see. The magic shield is just straight up worse than the round shield, from what I can tell. Get out of here. Oh, you can just throw away the short sword. Holy shit, that's awesome. What I really need to do is probably get, like, a thermos. Yeah, I should probably get a thermos at some point. That might not be a terrible idea, actually. Okay, so I could fit, like, 20 more 6% crit damage rate. You know, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the crit damage rate is... As long as this is above 5%, this is worth getting. Yeah, the only problem with getting a thermos at that point is just, cleaning it would be a problem. Let's see, do I lose the short sword now? I have no idea. Be pretty bad if it was just gone forever, but you know what? I don't give a dang about the short sword. Losing the magic shield kind of sucks it a little bit. That's about it. Alright, so we're back to Captain Generic Tank Crit Man. Should be fine. Yeah, Keurig is nice to have. Very expensive, though. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in stuff like Keurig, just because, like, those little, like, Keurig cups are pretty expensive on, like, a per drink basis. And I'd much prefer to just get, you know, packets of tea and make it myself. We had a Keurig back at my, my old job. The singular job well, no, I've worked at two actually, like, you know, adult workplaces in my life. And one of them had a Keurig, and the boss had to get real mad at people because they were only half drinking their Keurig things and wasting the K-cups. I think somebody decided to, like, open a bunch and, like, try and drink them, and then he threw up, and the boss was like, "Do you know how much these cost?" And the answer was, I think, no. I don't think anybody knew how much they cost at the time. So I looked it up, and I was just like, huh, these are, they're not cheap. The SpongeBob job. You know, that sounds way worse when you put it that way, but yes, that job. If I ever get, like, an office, you know, kind of, what is it? If I ever get an office, like, Rooster Teeth style, I will absolutely, like, get a setup for drinking tea more often. But at that point, I'll probably be old, retired, and, like, don't give as much of a damn about things, and I'd probably just, like, step away and just be like, eh, whatever. I think right now I'm just young enough that I'm like, don't want to step away, don't want to show my vulnerabilities or anything like that. Yeah, it is a weird neurosis. You probably don't see it from the outside, but it is very strange, like, more or less being in an industry where, like, stepping away even for a couple minutes can mean, like, a drastic difference in audience count. And so, like, I've developed some interesting quirks as a result of it. And I feel kind of bad, because Shell usually gets, like, the brunt end of them, because she has to deal with, you know, me being... I'm a complete homebody. I can't, I don't travel much, because, like, if I miss a night, that's, like, a 10% drop in viewership for, like, a month. Going away for a week, oof. That's bad. Let's see. And then, you know, obviously the other thing is, with travel, you miss out on, like, all the new indie games that come out. Like, for example, this game came out last week, and I didn't even know. Imagine if I, like, went away for a week. I'd miss the games that I know about and don't know about. Like, ugh. You don't want to do that. 4.4 crit isn't very good. Max health isn't very good either. Gold drop, poison attack, electric attack. None of these are good. That crit damage rate ain't bad, though. Remember this conversation, deja vu. I've talked about it before. Unfortunately, I tend to cycle topics sometimes, based on, like, what's in my head. Okay, so we want to go down. If you listen to me enough, you'll notice that I will cycle through a couple of topics and complaints and whatnot. Because it is like a perpetual issue. It's like, I think there was like a period of about a year on the Game Grumps where Aaron would not shut up about farting so much, and it was just like, eventually everybody was sick of it. I'm like, I totally understood. I was also sick of it, but I also knew that, ow, dropping down there sucks. Luckily, kunaiing this guy to death is really easy. Because I do a ton of damage. Crit and crit-based weapons in this game are kind of broken. At least compared to most of the other ones. There are some really good weapons out there, but, like, the kunai just always feels like a top-tier weapon. I would like to try the matchlock, though. If we see the matchlock, we'll go with that. Or... if we see the matchlock, I will try the matchlock. Not for this run, obviously, but for the next one. I mean, if we're lucky, there's something better than the matchlock. There's something better than the matchlock in the most recent set of weapons that we picked up. Unfortunately, they're kind of rare. So if I heard of the game called Usurper, yes, I have. I actually have access to it. They gave me a key. Main problem is just early access Metroidvanias generally don't interest me. I'd rather play them when they're done. I think it's Metroidvania. They also... Whoop, oh, I hate fucking spring shoes. Well, rest in peace, money. I didn't even get the chance to pick you up. Guess I should have picked it up beforehand. Anyway, let's tribute the spring shoes because screw them. All of these can be tributed, honestly. It just got released 2 days ago. How? How do these things, like, just never... I hate the games industry because they don't tell you things. So I was talking about this, I think, within like the first I think I was talking about in like the second or third episode of this game specifically. But like I am a channel that goes like way out of my way to cover indie games that like nobody else has even heard of generally. And like I keep my ear to the ground as close as possible for like new things coming out and stuff like that. And like there are games that just come out and I have no idea. There's no fanfare for it. There's no press release. It's not even on a Steam upcoming list half the time. It's just like game's out, and I'm always just caught entirely off guard. It's probably an issue with publishers. Well, Usurper was a indie game. I think the company is... I think it's like even like a one-man project or something like that. It's like a very small team, probably handling all of their PR. And I get really mad at indie developers that do all their own PR and then just kind of don't do it. There's this weird myth. What is it? What is the myth? There's a phrase, actually. If you make it, they will come, or something to the extent of that. But effectively, if you make a good game, people will come and play it. And that is, I want to say, one of the worst myths that people have ever perpetuated as far as indie gaming. And YouTubing and a bunch of other things. Like, you can't just put a game out into the void. Some people will pick it up, and, you know, sometimes you'll get lucky. Sometimes you'll have, like, a game that releases with 0 PR or anything. And it'll just do really well because, like, a dedicated group of people will, like, pick it up, find it, and then promote the shit out of it. But most of the time, when you just put a game out, nobody knows. Okay, let's put away the... Let's get the Bloodstone Ring, and I'm gonna grab the Boomerang. It's not as good as some things, but I need the range. Let's see, and we're still missing. Okay, if you build it, they will come, based on Ancient Rome. Interesting. But, like... I'm trying to get my thoughts back on track. I just had to do, like... a gameplay decision, and it just threw off my entire track of my I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, Let's Players are incredibly important to the process. Yeah, there are press lists out there, fairly good ones too, that like absolutely just like hand out games to people, and it boggles my mind that, like, a lot of these indie developers don't even bother to, like, contact YouTubers, for example. Who, you know, sure, you might get a number of no's or no responses. Or you might get like a bunch of bites and game turns out to be really good. But you never know until you try. And that's kind of the insulting, the frustrating part for me, is because I don't know about some of these games because they're not put on any lists. They're not talked about at all. The developer's like, well, I guess it's feature complete. Let's put it on Steam, full release. And Steam doesn't even, like, stop them and be like, you know, whoa, are you sure? Like, you do realize that, like, you should probably get some PR going on this before you just hit release. And the indie developer's like, nah, it's fine. My game speaks for itself. You know, it'll do well. And then it gets, like, barely any sales. And then I get an email about it later on being like, hi, can you cover my game? It came out, it just got released. I look at the date and it was like half a year ago and I'm like, no, that's not just released. Your game is already ancient history. The moment your game comes out on Steam, it's too late for PR. And that's where the dog was hiding, directly behind. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, not knowing the ins and outs, but you end up paying a price for doing so. Because me personally, I prefer to cover games. I prefer to start my series about 3 days before the game comes out, because that maximizes the amount of views for me, and that gives me kind of like an established presence on the game when it you know, actually hits everybody else's eyes, and that way people have the chance to kind of look forward to buying it. A week after release is too late. Nobody's looking for the game anymore, for me or for the developer, because, you know, I can kind of signal boost it and be like, hey, look, here's this awesome game. But a lot of people are just not going to be aware of it anymore because it's too late. And so, you know, I can only signal boost so much. And what you want to do is, you want to get them all kind of running at the same time. You know, people talking about it on Reddit or Twitter or whatever. People talking about it on YouTube. And a couple of streamers, you know, streaming it within the week of release. And, you know, then, you know, everything kind of slows down and disappears because, you know, interest wanes. But when I find out, like, about a game well after its release, it's like, well, I will cover it if I got time for it. And, like, that's the problem I'm looking at now. It's like, I'd love to cover Usurper, but, Baseline, I've got, like, 5 other games on the list that are coming out within the week, as opposed to, you know, a couple days ago. And it's rough. This is something that you don't find out about, I want to say, until you've released your first game, or you've, you don't find out about this whole, like, rant that I'm doing. You don't find out about it until you've released your first game, or you've worked as, like, a PR person. And I feel bad for, like, fresh new indie developers, because there's a lot of indie developers out there that, like, just never learn this. And it sucks. Actually, the ones I feel worst for are the ones that have released games before and got successful with a PR budget of nothing. Because those are the ones that, you know, really have promise. Like, you know, a new fresh indie developer, they might not know better. They haven't been in the game long enough, so on and so forth. So, like, you know, it's kind of forgivable, but also, like, it's forgivable, but it's also, like, you know, it's their first game, so it's probably not going to be as good as, like, their second or their third. But it sucks when I see, you know, established developers that released a game into the void. Maybe, you know, back when there weren't a whole lot of indie games, or Steam wasn't this, like, horrible mess that it currently is. I hate Steam. I love Steam. It's awful. The browsing it makes me want to die. I go to Keymailer to find out what's coming out on Steam. It's that bad. Because I can't parse the Steam upcoming list anymore. It's DLC, VR games, and, like, RPG Maker stuff. And I was talking about this a couple of days ago, but it's like, you can't find games on Steam anymore, not easily. It's this, like, awful, just cluster of garbage. Wow. All the food here sucks. Luckily, I think we're full health, and more or less... Okay, I'm not quite full health. I'll go get the 1 more HP. That I probably don't need here. But, so, I'm trying to think of an easy example. I don't actually know how much PR the developers Cellar Door Games did for Full Metal Furies. But that was a game that I think needed a little bit more PR than they did. Because it was actually a really fantastic game. Already, like, by far one of my favorite games from this year. And, I feel like people didn't even know what that game was. Like, usually when people see beat-em-ups, they think low quality. And so when Full Metal Furies came out, I'm sure a lot of people just kind of passed over it, because they didn't have enough, like, information out ahead of time, to, like, really, like, kind of offset the, the bias against said game. Kind of the same thing with Pyre, actually. A lot of people were, oh boy, a lot of people were particularly dismissive of Pyre because, what the hell is Pyre? And, you know, AK-77, sure. Okay. Fire in the hole, throws a grenade. Huh. Well, I might have to try this. For at least a little while. I don't know if this is going to be any good. I mean, it's better than the Uzi. Dismissive of a Supergiant game. A lot of people were. A lot of people were particularly dismissive of, a lot of... Okay, we're doing our reload speed run after this. Might try it with the matchlock, too. But, you know, Supergiant makes these, like, really lovely games, but they're also, like, very kind of atypical. And that worked really well for them with Bastion. But I think with, well, I don't know. I didn't like Transistor that much, so it's kind of hard to have, like, an opinion on that one, necessarily. Huh. But with Pyre, most definitely, everybody's just like, a visual novel sports game? What is this? You use the Q ability. I should use the Q ability. Hello! Yeah, it's a pretty good Q ability. The one problem is its base damage is kind of butts. We'll see. Matchlock gets this fast eventually. With the reload speed? I guess, kind of makes sense. You know what? I figured out why I don't like the, the spear lizards. Unlike every other ranged enemy in this game, they aim directly at you, up until the point that they release. Which is not how every other ranged, character works in this game. Because every other ranged enemy in this game will, throw the weapon at where you were, you know, like half a second ago. So as long as you're mobile, the ranged enemies generally won't hit you. Or they've got, like, a very specific defined pattern. Yeah, I'll have to try the matchlock. The only reason why I haven't tried the matchlock until now is just because I haven't found it since. Or I found something that I wanted to play with a little bit more. Transistor was pretty cool. Transistor was a really, really well done game that I really enjoyed. That, ended too soon. Like, literally the main villain of the game, for, like, much of the game, died off camera, and I didn't know. And I was very confused because I thought he just pieced out. And that pissed me off to no end when I found out after the fact, oh yeah, the main villain's just, he killed himself. There was a suicide pact. You'd find out about it if you read the note. What note? Messed with my brain. But yeah, I don't know. I really do feel bad for indie devs, because, like, they're some of the most genuine and, like, passionate people about this industry, and they're also the ones that get shafted oftentimes the most. No, I would say if you probably work for EA and, like, some of the really big ones, at least with an indie game, you have creative freedom. But, like, let's see. Oh, 8% critical. That feels good. The extra max health might not be a bad idea either. Yeah, 21 max health is not something to sneeze at, honestly. Especially because my defense is pretty good. As long as it's, like, near or above 40, you resist most of the damage. I'd love to see the math on what, how defense exactly works. Yeah, crunch periods. Oh yeah, I don't remember how many of you guys heard of the EA wife controversy years ago. Nothing ever got better after that. Like, nothing changed. It was sad. Let's see. I'm probably gonna hold on to the boomerang. Just because. Let's see. And go down. Let's see. I'm a little wounded. We're going into a boss fight. But I'm not too worried. The EA what now? It was EA spouse, EA wife. It was effectively a long... Oh, I thought we had the boss. I guess I misjudged. The EA wife thing was, a lady wrote a blog post. More or less, outing the games industry for crunch. And before that, it was kind of this unspoken thing that, like, nobody ever really talked about. And a lot of the public just kind of maybe knew about it, but the industry was pretty hush-hush about it. Because, like, you know, you're not really supposed to talk bad about your company. Ow. That's just kind of the way industry works in America, at the very least. And so, EA, he is just sniping me. I really don't like the spear lizards. I can actually find the fire area to be maybe a little bit easier. But so she writes this blog talking about, like, how she more or less doesn't see her husband for half the year, and when she does see him, he's a zombie. Because the crunch time is so bad in the games industry that, I hate those lizards. But yeah, the crunch time is so bad for, like, AAA developers that, like, almost every employee of them pretty much doesn't have a life for the vast majority of the game's development. Like, more or less, a lot of companies will actually lay people off even. You finish your game, and the company will be like, bye, and just lay everybody off until they've started their next game. This is specifically really bad with, like, QA teams, who pretty much don't work half the year and have to find, like, a new company to work for. And so what ends up happening is, oh, hello. Sure, why not? Oh, right, we don't have any enemies here yet. I really want to try this wand with the criminal. I think I might have to. Because I'm only doing 14%, 14 damage, but if I was doing 50-60 a hit, I bet it'd be ridiculous. We gotta get some power on this. We're, not strong. We're not quite strong enough for this. But yeah, so, a lot of people will get laid off. You know, game will come out and everybody's gone. Like, I could probably guarantee you most of the people that worked on Mass Effect Andromeda don't work at EA right now. They might. But they probably got laid off after the fact, and they might be back to it. But it's highly, highly unlikely that most of the team still works there. Yeah, Wand run next run. I think so, yeah. I gotta get some power here. We've got crit for days, but still. Crit for days only counts for so much when your base power is only 15. Actually, I should probably just get over here in preparation. Death! And so, like, that is, that's like a particularly predatory... Oh, we could get the advanced pistol. What's better, honestly? 10 to 12, 8 to 20. I don't know, actually. I don't know which is better. That's tough. I'll think about that. Yeah, pistol this run, wand next when you're built for it. That seems reasonable. Pistol and wand. If only I could. Oh, shit. I mean, honestly, it doesn't even seem like the pistol's a good idea for this run. It feels like I should probably actually just go back to the shuriken. Has this game been updated any? Hotfixes, mostly. I don't actually know how close to feature complete this game is. But I'm trying to remember how and why I even got onto the EA spouse rant. Don't really remember. You said a reload speed run was next. No, reload speed run is next when I get the... Whenever I get the matchlock. Until I get the matchlock, not really a whole lot of point to it. You mentioned crunch periods. Oh yeah, right. I got onto EA spouse, EA wife, because I was talking about... I gotta kill him. He sucks. How? How am I still getting hit by those? That's not okay. Those shockwaves are way too tall. What the... And I'm dead. Well, not surprising me too much. I was kind of mad about this. I was talking about indie developers being, abused. Okay, so let's select the fairy wand. Let's go wreck things. There we go. Wander, I'm very distractible. It's a distracting game. This is not an easy game. So it's super easy to just, like... It's super easy to just, like, lose all focus.